Now, if you're a car enthusiast and you love sports cars and exotics, you probably have at least one of those friends with an EV telling you how fast their car is. They might have a Tesla Plaid or a Lucid Air, and yeah, these are genuinely quick cars, but they're still sedans, not sports cars. So my question is, why isn't anyone making an exciting electric car with the body of a sports car? Something that has insane acceleration and fun driving dynamics. And by sports car, I mean something with two doors and a generally sporty design, not just a really fast sedan or a truck or a wagon or whatever.
Electric cars make terrible sports cars, right? While they're good at going fast in a straight line, because they're so heavy with all that battery tech, they're not so good at going round corners or being fun.
So today, let's look at the electric sports cars that are available right now and those coming in the near future. And definitely be sure to watch till the end because there are some that you've probably never heard of. If you're in the market for a sports car and you want the insane torque and acceleration of an EV, you're pretty much out of luck unless you want to spend some absolutely insane amounts of money. Now, those of you who've been watching my channel, you know that I'm not pro EV or anything. In fact, I don't own any electric cars, but I do own some sports cars, so I feel like I have a good sense of how I like to use those cars and of their pros and cons. But I'm not anti-EV, I'm just waiting for one that's a sports car. Even Marquez of Autofocus, who is like pretty big into electric cars, just bought a 2024 911 Turbo because he felt that even though EVs were fast, they're just not sporty.
Sports cars, though, are not yet one of those things. We do see huge horsepower numbers and they're incredibly fast in a straight line, but that always comes with a lot of extra weight. And so, turns out, with actual sports car on the mind, couldn't really be electric. Yet.
All right, so what's available right now? There are some electric sports cars. Well, I would call them exotics or hypercars really out there, but there isn't anything in that $75,000 to $150,000 price range, at least not that I'm aware of. And if I'm wrong, leave me a comment down below. But at the extreme high end, you do have a few options for pure electric exotics or hypercars. The Rimac Nevera is probably the benchmark for electric hypercars at the moment. It has 2,000 horsepower, does 0 to 60 in 1.7 seconds, and has a top speed of 258 miles per hour. And surprisingly, even with those numbers, Jason Camisa and Derek Tam Scott said it wasn't terrifying to drive, even in the rain. Oh, and it costs about 2.2 million US dollars. Yeah, so that option is out for most of us. But I will say, from all the reviews that I saw, this is an EV created by true car enthusiasts, and the result is something that most of us would love. Then you have the Pininfarina Battista. Pininfarina has long been the designer of Ferrari's sexy cars, so they for sure know how to design a good-looking two-door exotic. And now they have their own model, the Battista. It's electric and basically has the same specs as that Rimac Nevera because, well, it uses the powertrain from the Nevera. So if you want a more Italian-looking EV hypercar and you have about $2.2 million to spend, also the same as the Nevera, then this might be a good choice. I've heard of at least one of these being delivered here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Lotus was actually one of the first on the scene with a full electric hypercar, the Avia. They announced this in 2019, just before the start of COVID, and then things were quiet for a while, and nobody really knew what was going on. But in 2023, they delivered 5 of the customer cars to US-based owners during Monterey Car Week, and I saw at least 2 of them in person, including Jensen Button's done up in his Braun F1 livery. And you might think this is kind of weird, but again, the Avia also boasts 2,000 horsepower, similar to the other 2. I wonder if the drivetrain in that is also from the Nevera. And it's basically the same price at $2 million. I'm starting to maybe notice a trend here. Perhaps these things are all kind of modular powertrains with just different bodies. If that's the case, where's the $100,000 or the $200,000 equivalent? Is it possible to do something at that price point? The good news with the Avia is that Gavin Kershaw, who is the guy in charge of vehicle dynamics at Lotus and worked on the handling for the original Elise, is actually very excited about electric sports cars. And he is a big reason why the battery in the Avia isn't under the floor, because he said it just changes the handling that people are so familiar with.
From the very concept of the design of the vehicle, we selected the battery pack to be just behind me, right in the center of the car, so that the car's very, very agile, all the way through up to its well over 200 miles per hour top speed.
There are also a couple of other electric hypercars, exotic cars that I hadn't really heard of before, and you probably haven't either. One of these is the Aspark Owl. This is from a Japanese car company, and actually the car looks pretty good. No surprise, but it's also packing about 2,000 horsepower, a 1.7 second 0 to 60 time. Why do all these cars have the exact same specs? I mean, honestly, I guess probably anything over 700 horsepower. What's it even matter? Because that is just ridiculous. This one, though, is quite a bit more expensive at a whopping $4.2 million. Then we have the Neo EP9. The Neo EP9 is made by a Chinese company and only has 1,340 horsepower. So, I mean, it probably barely even gets out of its own way. No, that's not true. It still does 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds, tops out around 194 miles per hour. Apparently, it also does a 6-minute and 45-second lap at the Nürburgring. And yeah, you might have noticed, but it also has an autonomous track mode. I mean, that is pretty crazy. I've never seen anything like that. But let's say if you're looking for an EV sports car that maybe has more rational power levels and doesn't cost $2 million, there are some on the way. Tesla has been talking about a new Roadster model since 2017. They say it'll be about $250,000, which is still a lot of money, but it's on par with a lot of the higher-end Porsche 911s and is certainly comparable to a Ferrari or a Lamborghini in terms of price. The people who put a deposit down on these Tesla Roadsters have been extremely patient, since there is still no Roadster in sight. But hey, they can have a Cybertruck. Porsche has said that the next Boxster and Cayman will be all electric, and they won't offer gas-powered ones any longer. Given that Porsche sells about 20,000 of these cars per year, it is likely that this will kind of be the first mass-market EV sports car. Porsche hasn't released any official specifications yet, but the Boxster and Cayman could be available in a single motor, like a rear-wheel drive, and a dual-motor all-wheel drive configuration. Some people are saying that the single-motor models could produce about 300 to 400 horsepower, and the all-wheel drive models would make around 600 to 700 horsepower. If they're benchmarking on current pricing, these are probably going to be around $80,000. And apparently this electric Boxster will be available in 2025, and you can already put in an order for one. Now, given Porsche's track record, engineering skill, and supply chain management, I'd guess this is a pretty sure thing, and will probably be one of the first affordable electric sports cars that we see. There are also some rumors of a hybrid version and maybe even a future electric Porsche 911, but Porsche has gone on record in saying the 911 will be gas-powered for as long as possible, and it will be the last car in their lineup to go full electric. Chevy is working on an electric Corvette expected to launch in 2024 or 2025.
U.S. auto manufacturer Chevrolet, which is owned by General Motors, is gearing up to debut its first ever fully electric version of the Corvette. And Maria, I've not been an electric vehicle fan until I saw this photo, the Corvette.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's very hot. So GM has been already manufacturing electric vehicles, but the race is on to manufacture an all-electric sports car.
Mm-hmm.
I can only imagine how the V8-loving Corvette crowd is going to react to this. I mean, I'm sure the same is probably true for many of us who own gas-powered sports cars today. And one thing to consider, there actually is already a hybrid version of the Corvette, the E-Ray, on sale now. The electric Vette might have all-wheel drive thanks to 2 or 3 motors and will probably produce a combined output of around 800 to 1,000 horsepower. All that power and traction should give the electric Corvette a 0 to 60 time of about 3 seconds or less, and prices are expected to be about $130,000. Another one that I just recently learned of is the Catm Project V. Now, Catm is known for lightweight cars like their Lotus 7 inspired series, Project V is actually a really good looking concept, weighing only 2,600 pounds, which is light even by modern gas engine car standards. It has a modest 268 horsepower, but it still does 0 to 60 in a respectable 4.5 seconds. It has a range of about 250 miles and a price of around $100,000, so this could be a viable option. Another one that I didn't know about was MG. Now, MG isn't a well-known brand in the US, but they previewed their Cyberster, which I guess is kind of a weird word, but I guess it's a play on Roadster since it's a convertible. In fact, this is kind of a bit what I'd imagine an electric Miata might be, but it's coming from MG. The Cyberster is based on this modular, scalable platform that they have, and will probably have two powertrain options. The most powerful version would be dual motor, all-wheel drive setup, producing about 536 horsepower and 535 foot-pounds of torque. The specs say it has a 77 kilowatt battery and a range of about 360 miles. Now, MG is claiming a 0 to 60 mile per hour time of about 3.2 seconds, and there might even be a lighter rear-wheel drive version offered with a smaller battery and only about 308 horsepower. Supposedly, this is going on sale in the UK in the summer of 2024, which is right around the corner. But what about an electric Miata, or a BRZ, or a Supra, or a BMW M2, M3, M4, or an NSX, or an Emira, or an Audi TT? Are any of those things in the works? It turns out that Lotus actually is working on an electric version of the Emira, and it's called the Type 135. It's expected to have 470 horsepower and will be rear-wheel drive. And the best part is that they're placing the battery just behind the driver so that it retains that magical Lotus handling and driver engagement. It's supposed to start around $80,000, and they say there will be an open-top Roadster version as well. The estimated weight is around 3,300 pounds, which isn't too bad given that even a gas-powered Emira is 3,175 pounds. So personally, I am really looking forward to this car. And yeah, I know what you're all thinking. What about the Mustang? There actually is already an electric Mustang, but unfortunately it is not a sports car. Now, I may regret saying this, but the use case for an EV sports car is actually pretty good. Aside from track days and big road trips or rallies, most sports cars are kind of used in local situations near your home. You're either going for a backroads drive, using it to commute to work, or just other day-to-day uses where range isn't typically a major issue. So yeah, an EV sports car could make sense in some of those situations. So what do you think? Would you buy one? I know me personally, I'm not quite ready for it unless it can deliver that visceral experience that a sports car gives you. If someone could make an EV sports car that delivers an exciting, interactive driving experience, maybe I'd consider it. But for now, I'll be sticking with my current cars. If you liked this video, check out my video about how much it costs to replace the EV batteries in the McLaren P1, LaFerrari, and Porsche 918. Thanks for watching.
Prototypes at the moment, but we're